You know, I know that some of you grumble about the speakers that we've had in the past because I'd rather hear Ramtha talk because, you know, the information. But I think that everyone that we've had here has been very valuable, and in one way or another, they've helped to reconfirm what we've been taught from a completely outside source, and that's one of the reasons that I invite speakers here. This next gentleman I was introduced to through a videotape from my friend Anne Marie, and then her friend, the captain, sent over this videotape of Alex Collier. And so I was just in the mood to listen to this, and I sat down and I immediately liked him. And I liked what he had to say, and for 6 hours, videotape, I was glued to it. And one of the reasons that I wanted him to come here is because he addressed issues in this that Ramtha pioneered really the changes the days to come and really set everyone on the trend of predictions and all those sorts of things. But there was certain knowledge that many of you know that was never out there that we've gotten here, in particular about the blue webs and the blue body, the different planes, the spiritual self. Well, this gentleman happened to touch upon some of those subjects, and I was intently intrigued about his message. And I felt that this group would be an ideal group for him to come and talk to because, simply put, most of us that are in, and I count myself as one of these, in the advanced group, hope so. I do my field work. Anyway, cut our teeth on changes the days to come from Ramtha. You know, when everybody went hysterically running out and pulling their hair out and say, oh, he's creating fear in the marketplace, and, you know, all these politically incorrect things that Ramtha did, well, it turned out to be correct. And one of the issues that was most difficult to handle was becoming self-sufficient and buying our own land and storing our own food, learning to grow it, learning to prepare it, having our own water, moving out of the city, building our projects and preparing. And there is a school of thought within the school that thinks that's sort of silly if we're gods. But, you know, I love what Ramtha throws back on you. Say, well, if you're so hot, then you get out there and let's see you do field work. You know, I mean, that sort of puts that issue to rest. And and I'm not so stupid to assume that as much as I know, that I would totally depend upon my knowingness to get my body through, because I'm still on the journey and I'm still developing as well. Well, I know that this group in particular, he has talked about preparation and about the things that are coming and the war and the 12 days of light and all of those things that some of you may be starting to get scared to death now. Mr. Collier has gotten this information from a completely different source. And well, I felt since Ramtha has not addressed for some time now these issues, because his focus has been on preparing us spiritually and training us to be spiritual beings instead of physical beings, so that spiritually we can take care of our own bodies. That's where Ramtha's whole agenda has been on, to make us preservable for what's about to happen. Mr. Collier's information flows right along with what we've been taught and what most of us have sort of come to accept without fear, without understanding. And I pointed out to him, I said, you know, Ramtha is very wise, and he says, when you're prepared, you don't have any fear. It's when you're unprepared that you have the fear. And you don't know where to go and where to hide and what to eat and how to make it, and everything's turned off, you don't know what to do. Well, preparation is the greatest deterrent for being afraid, and we've had a very great and wonderful teacher who has endeavored to coax us along and give us that sense of self-preparation and sustainment. So Mr. Collier's contacts have been with the Andromedans, and I just love it. They're blue. And he didn't know anything about this group. It was wonderful, and maybe he can give you a little background on that, the group, you know. And so when he asked his contacts, they said, yes, we know who Rump is. We call him the commander. So I don't know what you want to do with that. We all know that he has that ability to command. So we're not sure what context to take this in. I want to also prepare you for something else. I know what it's like to have a head full of knowledge and 5 hours to try to get it all out. It's taken you 20 years to learn it. Mr. Collier has a head full of knowledge. He also has a lot of questions. He has a lot of information. His talk isn't a pat little talk. It isn't written down somewhere and he's memorized it. He has important information on every topic. And I know what it's like to address an issue and then remember that there's other issues to add to that. So I want you to know that he's endeavoring, and I've asked him, he said, what can I possibly tell him now? I said, everything you know. That's a large request. So understand that there's a lot has to come out in the next few hours. And don't get hung up on a particular question. You might make note of it because he does enjoy question and answer sessions that are legitimate questions that merit being asked. Not what's wrong with my parakeet, but pay close attention. Also, something else you should be aware of, as with the scholars that have come here, and in particular, having a wonderful interaction with the physicists that have been here. You know, I love tangling it up with them, and the only problem we have is that we're thinking the same, but our definitions are different, our words are different. Understand, he's going to be describing what he's called as dimensions. We've been taught planes. He has other words for them, but if you understand that his language is a little bit different, you can follow the context of the knowledge that he's about to impart. And lastly, I want you to know that he has a tremendous burden, because I know that when I began to wake up and know things, that I wasn't happy about it. It made me really sad. And what made me worse was that I realized that everybody didn't want to wake up, and nobody wanted to know what I knew, because it was uncomfortable and it threatened our security and our little box. I think Mr. Collier is sort of in that place now. He has a tremendous amount of sadness about how do you tell people what's coming, and knowing what their reception is, and knowing they don't want to hear it, and knowing what our choices are. So he has a burden, and any messenger, and I can tell you, bears that burden, but any messenger worth their salt will live through it, and I think he will. So it's my privilege to present to you the lovely, the beautiful, the esteemed Mr. Alex Collier.
Oh, you've embarrassed me.
I know. It's good.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.